نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما أما بعد. First, I'd like to thank you, Penn, for inviting me to speak or to do a khutbah today. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here, and so I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. My khutbah today is how to strive to be a Muslim through very troubling times, and we have many problems in this world. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, just trying to keep your iman, and trying just to be a good Muslim in a world full of temptations, in a world that has a lot of obstacles, and these obstacles sometimes test our faith to the point where sometimes we sometimes lose our identity as Muslims, and there's a lot of bad influences, there's a lot of bad friends out there. There's increased depression, decreased happiness, and these problems can be catastrophic for some of us. And so I'd like to say that a lot of our problems can be solved by our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A lot of his teachings and a lot of his sayings can really solve any problem that we have in this dunya. And if you would only realize, the weight that our Prophet has on us and the sayings that he has on us, these sayings and these ahadith, the Sahabi, they took literally. Anything that the Prophet said, they literally took it literally and they applied it in their lives. And why? Because they wanted to strive for Jannah, right? And you can take many ahadiths, like 30 to 40 ahadith of the Prophet, and they could solve the whole Ummah's nation, the problems that we face on a daily basis, right? So today I'm going to pick one hadith, right? And the Prophet said, من حفظ 40 حديثا في شؤن أمته حشر مع العلماء والفقهاء. Right, so he says, Prophet Muhammad says, whoever memorizes 40 ahadith in troubling times of his ummah, he's considered to be from the people of the pious people and the people who have a lot of knowledge, right? Which means whoever memorizes 40 ahadith, right? And the Prophet thought that 40 was a good number, was a fair number, within a reasonable time period, to solve the problems of the generation, he becomes a scholar, because after 40 ahadith, you've solved the problems of your ummah, right? But he didn't really specify which 40, right? Because every 100 years, each generation has each in their own problems, right? Every generation, the past 100 years, they had their own problems compared to our generation right now. We have different problems, right? So he didn't specify which ones. And so because of that, a lot of scholars came about, Hanbali, Shafi'i, and especially one person who we probably all know about, and Nanawi. And he made a book called Al-Arba'in al-Nanawiyya. And he lived very short in Nanawi. And he said that these 40 ahadith that he compiled is 40 ahadith that you can apply in any generation, in any time period, that will solve the problems of our generation. But which 40 can we really, distinguish to solve our problems in this ummah, in this time, right? And I'm not saying I'm going to go over 40 ahadith in this one khutbah, right? I just want to go over one. And this one hadith, I feel like is more important than all the other 40 that An-Nanawi compiled. It's only 20 words and it's only 3 phrases. And this hadith can be a guide to living your life. And if you really apply it and you hang it up on your wall, I have it on my wall right now. Every single day I wake up in the morning, I see this hadith. And it's a hadith it's crucial in our lives, right? And this hadith is اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحوها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. Right? And this hadith is translated to as fear Allah wherever you may be, follow up a bad deed with a good deed and it erases it, and treat people with good manners and good akhlaq or good behavior, right? So what do these three things have to do with each other, right? If they have a connection, they clear, if you read them like this, you clearly can't really realize if they have a connection or not. But because harf al-waw, because it says wa, it means there's an alaqa. It means there's a connection between these three phrases, right? It says fear Allah wherever you may be, and, right? And follow up a bad deed with a good deed, and treat people with good respect and good manners, right? So there has to be a connection between these three. So let's look at this hadith a little closer. What's the meaning of ittaqillah haythuma kun? What's the meaning of ittaqillah? Right, fear Allah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's three segments, and he sorry. So what does ittaqillah mean? Ittaqillah, like when I was younger, whenever my parents used to say ittaqillah or be the people of the muttaqeen, I felt like this was a word that was way beyond where I was, right? And muttaqeen is like God-fearing people. They're people that are like angels in my head, right? They're people that fear Allah all the time, wherever they are, right? But in reality, we can accomplish being from the muttaqeen. So before we go on how you can become people of the muttaqeen, let's see the rewards of what it means to be God-fearing people. What are the rewards of you becoming God-fearing? So, Inna Allah yuhibbul muttaqeen. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you become the habib of ar-Rahman. You become the most loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's number one. You become most loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. So, which basically means whoever fears Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يَجْعَلْ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا, or He makes his life easier. So whenever he's going about in his life, He makes it just easier for you because you're a God-fearing person, right? Number three, when you make a mistake, right? Because you're going to make mistakes in life, right? And you're part of the muttaqeen, the people who fear Allah. يَغْفِرْ عَنَّكْ سَيِّئَاتِكَ. So He basically He relieves you of your mistakes, right? وَيُعْظِمْ لَهُ أَجْرًا. And He alleviates your good deeds. And why? Because الْحَسَنَةُ بِعَشْرُ أَمْثَالِهَا. A good deed is 10 times worth of one bad deed. So when you do one bad deed, it's only going to count as one bad deed. But if you do one good deed, it counts as 10 good deeds. So you're always winning if you follow this aspect, right? And also He says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. So whoever fears Allah, whenever he's in trouble, whenever you're in a bad situation, يَجْعَلْ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. So He relieves him of this trouble or this obstacle, right? And so وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And He says, and we grant him beyond his expectations. You have an expectation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of what He gives you, He gives you beyond that expectation. Right, so 6 things. يُحِبَّكَ. He loves you. فِي مَعَايَةِ اللَّهِ. That means you're with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wherever you go. And then يَكَفَّرَ عَنَّكَ سَيِّئَاتِكَ. He relieves you of your bad deeds. And يُعْظِمْ لَكَ أَجْرَكَ. Right? He gives you good deeds beyond your expectation. Whenever you do a bad deed, 10 times the good deed, it deletes the bad deed that you did. Right? يَجْعَلْ لَكَ فِي أَمْرَكَ يُسْرًا. So He gives you in a troubling time, He gives you relief. Right? وَيُرْزُقَكَ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And He gives you beyond your expectations. So those are 6 things that you can do if you're God-fearing. Right? So not only this though, the Jannah, whenever it's promised in the Quran, it says أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Right? It's always saying أُعِدَّتْ, or it's promised. Of course, Jannah is promised for the Muslimin, right? But it says it's always, whenever it's mentioned in the Quran, أُعِدَّتْ, it's promised for the muttaqeen, for the God-fearing people. Right? And so, Yawm al-Qiyamah, in the Day of Judgment, when we're on the Sirat is a thin layer, is a thin string, almost like, that basically you need to cross it in order to go to Jannah. And beneath it is hellfire. So, the Prophet Muhammad says, we have to cross it in order to go to Jannah, right? And underneath it is hellfire. And he says, some people will cross over this sirat, or this bridge, as quickly as a horse, right? Some people will cross it as a flash of lightning. Some people will cross it just to blink your eye and you're already there, right? And some people will cross it running, some people will cross it walking, and some people will cross it crawling. And some people, the malaika have to actually drag them across the bridge. It all depends on the iman and how God-fearing you are, right? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ثُمَّ نُنَجِّي الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا, and we will save the people who were God-fearing, right? And so that's also another reason why you need to be God-fearing. So who are the muttaqeen? So I mentioned all these rewards of how you of what it's like to be in muttaqeen. But how do we become from the muttaqeen? Right? It's simple. Right? It's أن يجدك حيث أمرك ولا يجدك حيث نهاك. Just two things. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you from what He has, demanded on our religion, and He doesn't see you where He's forbidden you to be. So He sees you doing good things that He has told us to do, like fasting, praying, being good to the parents, right? These small things, but we take it for granted, right? And then not to see you where He has forbid you to be, whether it's it's a hookah bar, or to be smoking, or to be drinking alcohol, or to be using drugs. These things that He's forbidding you to do, or to be loud with your parents. These small things, if you just follow to do good deeds, then يجدك حيث نهاك, يجدك حيث أمرك, ولا يجدك حيث نهاك. Right? So He sees you when you do good things, and He doesn't see you in a place where He's not allowed you to be. So مطرح ما أمرك يلاقيك. So something that He's demanded for good, He sees you in. And something that He hasn't demanded you to be, something bad, He doesn't see you abadan. Right? So the Fajr, Salat al-Fajr, you wake up in the morning, you can say, yes, Alhamdulillah, I did this. I become from the muttaqeen. I was good to my parents. Check. I can be from the muttaqeen, right? Oh, I wasn't good to my parents. I yelled at them the other day. That's a mistake, right? And actually in the Quran, He says, when He first sent down the ayah, He says, اتق الله حق تقاته, right? He says 100 out of 100. He wanted you to be God-fearing all the time. So the Sahabi, they actually had a problem with that. They couldn't do it because they were only human. They were going to make mistakes, right? So He says, He followed up this ayah, اتق الله حق تقاته, like be God-fearing all the time. But then He followed it up with فاتقوا الله ما استطعتم. He says, okay, be God-fearing, but up to your capability. So whatever you can do, right? So if you at the end of the night can say that you did 6 out of 10 things that were God-fearing, what's your percentage at the end of the day? Right? Is it 5 out of 10? Is it 6 out of 10? Is it 8 out of 10? Right? But we do to the best of our ability. We're going to make mistakes. And that's why it says, اتق الله حيث ما كنت, wherever you may be. And then He follows it up and says, and that's the relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to realize that's you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wherever you may be. مطرح ما أمرني ومطرح ما أمرني, right? So He sees me in a place that He likes it, but He doesn't see me in a place that He has the demand, that He doesn't like it, right? So if you can have that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wherever you're on the go, if you're in school, if you're in college, whether you're with your parents, whether you're not with your parents, right? Some people, they fear Allah with their parents, but when it comes to their friends, they don't fear Allah. Some people, they fear Allah in Philadelphia, but they leave to go to AC, or to go to like these places where you gamble, to not fear Allah. So they go outside of Philly to not fear Allah, right? So some people, they fear Allah with their family, but they don't fear Allah with their friends. So you have to, it's a constant struggle. And because it's a constant struggle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala follows it up and says, وَأَتْبِعُ السَّيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ تَمْحُهَا. He knows you're going to make mistakes, right? So that's why He says, follow up a bad deed with a good deed. Don't worry. La tkhaf. You did a bad deed, you have a bad past. Some people, they do a bad deed, and they fear to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Right? They do a bad deed, and they're like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is too big for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me for. Right? And they go and they go to sleep. And then they wake up the next morning, and they even feel more bad about it, right? Because they fear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to forgive them. But in the Quran it says, and that's why he says, وَأَكْبِرَ سَيِّئَةَ حَسَنَةً تَمْحُهَا. So you follow up a bad deed with a good deed, and it erases it. And then in the hasana bi'ashri amthaliha, right? The good deed is 10 times as much as the bad deed. So you do one bad deed and you follow up with a good deed, khalas, don't worry about it. You know, it's gone, it's done, right? So you have to have that mentality. So ittaqillah haythuma kunt, that's the relationship between you and Allah. Atbi' sayyat al-hasana tamha, follow up a bad deed with a good deed, that's between you and yourself, right? And that's the connection, right? The first segment was with Allah. The second segment is with yourself, right? So from the sweetness of our deen, you know, no, it's not like when you do a bad deed, you know, you're out of our deen. It's a continuous cycle. You're gonna do bad deeds, you're gonna do good deeds, but you're gonna realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most forgiving, right? And he says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Right? So he says, "O my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair of Allah's mercy. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins." Right? Indeed, He's the most forgiving and the most merciful. So this should be a guide for you to know that if you do a bad deed, don't despair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. No bad deed is big enough for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all know the story of the man who killed 100 people, and he goes to the one sheikh, and he's like, listen, he's trying to ask for forgiveness, right? So he goes to the one sheikh, he's like, listen, I killed 99 people. What can I do? Can I ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness? And the sheikh is like, you killed 99 people. Allah's never going to forgive you. So he kills him too. And then he goes outside and he goes to another person, another sheikh, and he's like, you know, I'm trying to ask for forgiveness. Please, like, what can I do to ask for Allah's forgiveness? He's like, get out of the city that you're from and go far away, and maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. So he leaves the city, and then he dies halfway through. And then the malaika, the two malaika, Malik al-Maut, and the malaika that takes you to heaven, right? They're arguing with each other over whether to take him to hellfire or whether to take him to Jannah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purposely, He says to them, let's measure the distance between the first city and the second city, and where he is in between. If where he is closer to the city that he was from, then I've forgiven him and he goes to Jannah. If he's closer to where he was, where he came from, then it's whatever. But out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, when the angels measured the distance, he moved it towards the second city, where he asked for forgiveness. So when you go and do a bad deed, how worse is it than killing 100 people, right? It's nothing compared to killing 100 people. So you gotta think of it like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't despair of His mercy, because no bad deed is big enough. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Please make dua to yourself and ask for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. So we discussed the two segments of this hadith. Ittaqillah haythuma kunt. Fear Allah wherever you may be, and follow up a bad deed with a good deed. The last segment is وَخَالِقِ النَّاسَ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. So it basically means, treat everybody with good manners. What's the alaqa between this? Because the first segment was about your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second segment was between you and what is between you and yourself. And the third segment is between you and other people. Right? So that's the connection between the whole hadith. Right? So he says, the word hasan, the Prophet didn't really specify what kind of good. Right? Every time it's hasan, yukun ahsan. So when you say, say for example, when he says, وَخَلَقَ النَّاسَ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ, By Hasan he means, say for instance I go to a brother and I say Assalamu alaikum, right? That's one hasana. But what if I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh? That's another hasana. That's even better. What if I put my hand out before he does? That's even better. What if I smile to my brother's face? Right? Right? The smile is equal to a charity. That's even better and better and better. So that's what he means by Hasan, right? So you tell yourself, what does Hasan mean? And this goes back to the ittaqillah haythuma kunt. The list, combine a list of things that you can do to be from the muttaqeen. I was good to my parents, that's one good thing, right? I kissed their hand, right? Who here kisses their parents' hands, right? And is not embarrassed of it, right? وَخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ, right? Be very calm. وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفْ, right? Don't even say uff. Like people, when we scream at our parents, we get really angry at them, and we tell them, you don't understand me, shut up, and we usually when we go home, we go straight to our rooms, we shut the door, we play PS4, and we talk to our friends, right? That's what we do. We ignore our parents. We tend to ignore our parents. But our parents are rahmah to us, right? So خَالِقَ النَّاسَ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. And this doesn't mean just Muslims. خَالِقَ النَّاسِ. He didn't say خَالِقَ الْمُسْلِم. He didn't say treat Muslims with respect and good manners. He said everybody. Whether he's a Christian, whether he's a Jew, whether he's a Hindu, everybody. You have to have good respect and manners to everybody. In history, even we see this in history where no one really knew about Islam. If you were to ask people about Islam, they don't really know about it. I'll give $100 to anybody who could name the war that happened in Indonesia to spread Islam. Can anybody name the war in Indonesia? How did Islam spread in Indonesia? How did it spread in Africa? Tanzania? How did it spread to these places? There was no war. Right? People say that Islam is a war, is a non-peaceful religion where it was spread by the sword. It wasn't. Right? It was spread by this last segment. خَالِقَ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. And how did it spread? Through tradesmen. They used to do their own business, and they used to be fair with their prices. And the people, they're like, who are you? You're giving me a fair price with your stuff, with your trades, and what kind of religion do you have? And that's what they did. They applied خَالِقَ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ, and that's how they spread Islam in Indonesia. That's how they spread Islam in Africa. So it's a beautiful thing, our religion. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's going to question you on the Qiyamah. What did you do to spread the word of Islam? What did you do to show that our Islam is a peaceful religion? We have this in our media where Islam is being misinterpreted. And it's not a good thing. So how can we change that? We change that through this hadith. اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. أنت ممثل الإسلام. أرجوك أحسن تمثيلنا. Right? You're the representative of Islam. You have to represent Islam well, right? And the problems, all these problems that we have, we can solve it. I have 4 points that I want to wrap up with, right? All these problems that we have in our ummah can be solved with these 4 things. Number 1, Islam, right? All these problems that people say and misinterpret our religion, you have to say to yourself, Islam. I am Islam. وأحسن تبديل الإسلام ولو كنت وحدي. I'm the best representative of Islam even if I'm by myself. أنا حمشى في الشارع أضل Islam. Right? I'm gonna walk in the streets. I'm gonna state Islam. Don't lose your identity. Right? I'm gonna interact with the American people. I'm gonna state Islam. Right? I'm gonna work. I'm gonna be in the workplace and interact with my colleagues. I'm gonna state Islam. Right? أنا الإسلام ولو الدنيا انتهت. ولو الدنيا اختطت أنا متأكد إن النبي محمد علمني إن أنا أكون إنسان ممتاز بالأخلاق والنجاح في الحياة. أنا الإسلام. Which basically means I know that I am Islam. Even if I'm the last person on earth, even if the whole world is in chaos, I know that I'm Islam. This is my identity as a Muslim, right? I know that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught me to be Islam with what? Your akhlaq, bi akhlaqi, be with my manners and my success. Be the best that you can be, right? Show the وَلِلْعَالَمْ أَجْمَلْ مَا عِنْدَنَا, right? Show the people the best of what we have, the best of what Islam has to offer, We're walking down the street, we're very disrespectful. We don't hold people, we don't hold the door for other people. We don't say please and thank you. We're like angry for some reason. Arabs, we're really angry and uptight people, right? But you gotta you have to be good to everybody. And that's how we show Islam, right? That's how people are going to say, wow, he's Muslim. Let's not look at the media. Let's not look at what the media is saying about Islam. That's not what Islam is. Islam is a piece of religion. Let's look at the people, right? And number two, you're able to live in this country as a Muslim and an American citizen, right? You're an American citizen in this dunya, right? But you're still an American Muslim. And you hold tight to your identity. Number three, in Surah Yasin it says, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُمْ. He says, in the Quran it says, it is we who bring the dead to become alive, and we record what they put forth and what they leave behind. So what I'm trying to say is, what are you leaving behind in this dunya? Right? Into Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's going to question you on Qiyamah. He's like, I gave you the best religion. And even the Prophet says, اليوم أكملت دينكم, right? I completed your religion. إنها رحمة للعالمين. Islam is a rahmah. It's a mercy for the alameen. So what did you do? What did you put behind? You see, I'm going to share something personal with you guys. I'm a dialysis patient, right? And I've been on dialysis now for 4 years. And I don't want to be remembered as that guy who's on dialysis. I don't. I want to be remembered as that guy who did something for this ummah, who brought something forth for Islam, right? And that's through my major. We all go to college. Why? To bring forth a better, to help others, through our major. We go to school, we study, we really struggle in college, and we pay all this money. You have to have the intention. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to leave something behind. A lot of actors, they have the Hollywood stars on stone. I want to be like that, right? I don't want to be like this guy, this one guy who was on dialysis and went to dialysis 3 times a week, and that's it. No, I want to be somebody who did something for Islam, who represented my Islam well, that I can tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah, I did this for Islam, And that's the mindset that we have to have. And the last thing is protect your brotherhood and your sisterhood. The brothers and sisters here, protect your akhuwah. Have love and mercy for each other. We're gonna argue and we're gonna get into arguments and we're gonna fight each other. But اختلف برحمة. Argue in mercy. Be merciful with one another. Don't backbite with one another. Don't judge other people based on what they're doing. That's Allah. That's for Allah to do. And that's why I brought this hadith today. اتق الله حيثما كنت. Fear Allah. That's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اتق الله حيثما كنت. Fear Allah wherever you may be. He doesn't see me in the place. He doesn't see me in the place where I'm not supposed to be, but He sees me in the place where I am supposed to be, right? And then أتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها. Follow up the bad deed with a good deed. It erases it. And خلق الناس كل الناس. Treat everybody with good manners and behaviors, just like the Prophet taught us. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Please say Ameen. I'm going to make dua. اللهم اغفر لنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا بعزتك شر ما قضيت فإنك سبحانك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك إنه ما واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت فلك الحمد على ما قضيت نسألك اللهم من كل ذنب ونتوب إليك ونؤمن ونتوكل عليك أنت الغني ونحن الفقراء إليك أنت القوي ونحن الضعفاء إليك اللهم يا واصل المنقطعين أوصلنا إليك اللهم كما جمعتنا في هذا المكان المبارك فاجمعنا في الفردوس الأعلى مع النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واسقنا من يده شربة لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا يا أكرم الأكرمين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله وأقيموا الصلاة.